Hello, World Civilization 106 class. Welcome to week 9. So I will do my best to get the exam papers graded as soon as possible. I also have 2 jobs, so I'll be kind of going in and out with all that. But there's just a few things that I want to say. I had 2 students point out that they're seeing on the gradebook assignments that you're not seeing in the modules, right? So I might have mentioned this earlier, but I'm going to probably mention this again come the end of the semester. For some reason, maybe a mess up on my own, I don't know, I got to this point where I keep having this. I've had this class for several years, and I will take the shell and bring it in, and what ends up happening as I have old assignments from my former classes that are somehow still in my grade book. And so the grade book is like a graveyard of my old assignments, but as I've tried to figure out how to delete them, and I think I even called Canvas once, I basically risk deleting some of my other assignments that I want to keep, and it's just kind of a mess that now I don't really know how to get rid of. So when you look on the grade book, you would have saw for this period on Greece a paper on Alexander the Great, or I think comparing Alexander the Great to Caesar of Rome. And we didn't even talk about Rome, right? Because that's from a summer class that I taught where I combined Greece and Rome together and then had students do a compare and contrast. So that can be, it's a problem, but really, if you just focus on the module assignments and you remember and you look at those and you see what's in the weekly work objectives, that's all you'll be responsible for, and that's all you need to worry about. So I hope that helps in regards to that potential confusion. Okay, so so now we're moving on into Judaism. Now you'll notice many of you might think, well, didn't we sort of talk about this before? We went over ancient Israel already. And part of the point that I'm trying to drive in is that I would say that ancient Israel, when there's a temple and sacrificing of animals with a priestly class at a very specific site in Jerusalem, we're going to see that it ends historically, that the temple is destroyed by the Romans. There's no more priests to do animal sacrifices in that area, and that the religion that is going to emerge from that is going to take shape in a very different way, and has had, over more than 1,000 years to develop. And so sometimes the mistake that if you grow up Christian, and many people that did not grow up Christian may not realize this, the Christian Bible uses the Jewish Bible. I want to make that very clear. It's Genesis to Malachi. It's arranged that way. In a Christian Bible, it's arranged from Genesis to Malachi, and there's these large amount of books that come from the ancient Israel period. Now, Jews have those same books that are just put in a slightly different order. Okay, so but they're the same books. As the Protestants have, Catholics have more books, and that's a topic we'll get to when we cover Christianity. So we're sliding into this to learning more about how this all fits together. Okay, but then just to say that the Christians have what's called the New Testament, and again we'll cover this more with Christianity. But when they're reading about this, they're reading about the Jewish people, they're reading about ancient Israelites, and for a lot of Christians, if they don't have a lot of Jewish friends and they're not exposed to Jewish culture and they're not getting to study the religion that much, are simply looking at Jewish people now through the lens of texts written from a very long time ago, right? And having somewhat of a distorted kind of view about an entire group of people and the way that religion is approached now. So I'm hoping to kind of help us, those from a Christian background to work through that and realize, okay, the difference. And I want all of you out there to see also that if you're interested in studying religion, that the way that ancient Israelites practiced their religion and had their culture is different than what is going on now, although they are, like, the rabbinic Judaism, for example, is linking itself to that past, right? But it makes sense that things over time change, priorities change, circumstances that communities are in change, right? And there's going to be new responses to those changes. And the byproduct of rabbinic Judaism, there was already those changes going on in the first century during the time of Jesus, but it just happens that the rabbis are the certain branches of Judaism that died out. We have one now that exists that's also mentioned in the Christian New Testament. I don't want to get anybody lost in too much. This is one of those things that some of you, if you're just new to this might be a little bit overwhelming, and you're just like, I'm confused, and I'm going to say, hey, just don't worry about it. If you, though, are someone who has been engaged in this discussion and research, and you're finding this interesting, but you're still a little bit confused, if the lectures and the videos don't clarify things, please contact me. I'm more than happy to go over these topics and, really polish up your understanding. The other thing that I always really try to emphasize, and I do mention it in one of the lectures, but I really want you all to understand that the current Israel-Palestine conflict does not have as much to do with the story of ancient Israel or this section of Judaism as you would think. And there will be some people that would contest this, but I have somewhat of an expertise in this, and I just want to say once again that the role of religion now is certainly huge within the Israel-Palestine conflict, but originally that was not the main issue. And the roots of the Israel-Palestine conflict are not still religious. And I've said this before, if everybody in the conflict turned atheist, the conflict would only... You might have certain holy sites that are no longer as contentious because the religious issue wouldn't be as sensitive, but the conflict would still remain. And in fact, when it comes to religious sites, and on the side, in the case of Israel, it's mainly being viewed as important due to the feeling that there's a historic connection more than a religious one. I cover this thoroughly in my World Civilization 107 class, and I cover it so much so that I actually have a student write what both sides of the conflict would have, what they would have to say about this from their perspective. I don't have time to go into that, but if that is if that interests you, I'm more than happy to also give you, I think, a very fair and balanced set of information to go on, even though I do have an opinion about the conflict itself. But as a professor, as a teacher, I try to help facilitate a kind of an understanding how both sides of the story have an understanding it from their perspective and why this conflict exists, and covering it in that way. So that's all I wanted to mention on that. And just want to remind you that, we'll go into Rome, and then we're going to get into Islam finally. And so I've been taking us through the journey as different religions come into history. So I think that once we get to Rome and Christianity and Islam, for those of you who are interested in any of the faiths of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, you will be able to connect a lot of dots. You will be able to understand their connections, where they're similar, where they disagree, and it'll make things make a lot more sense. Again, for those of you who are not exposed to religion at all, I just want to remind you that there is, unlike some of the other traditions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam do have a historic relationship with each other. Okay, and that history has been long, and so there's a lot of different Sometimes things have been better and other times worse in terms of getting along and seeing, and how the communities interact with each other. All right, that's all I wanted to say on this for now. I hope you are all having a good start to your week. And again, I am a busy person, but I try to make myself available if you have any questions about the topics at hand or just your grades or anything else. So take care. We'll be in touch.